back to you into today's video. I just want to do a very quick video looking at the chance of a big change in the weather for the final week of November. This is right at the very outer limit of what is possible to forecast in terms of models, and it's certainly in the unreliable part of the model run. But there is just signs that we could see a change to much colder weather for the final week or so of November, with northerly winds really setting in, and I say bringing some really cold weather potentially for the final week of November. Now, before I get on with it, I just want to explain about the advertising. There'll usually be a video ad overlaying my web videos at GamsworthVids.com. Please play those video ads. You will be supporting GamsworthVids.com by doing that. So we'll start off with the ECMWF model, and this is the chart for a week's time, Friday the 16th of November. I mean, you've got a very flat sort of zonal pattern here still going on, so the next week or so, a week to 10 days, certainly is going to be pretty mild, with the westerly winds dominating off the Atlantic. The jet stream here, the black line, indicates we've got a very flat jet stream running out of Canada across the Atlantic into Central Europe. That's about as zonal as it can get, really, with high pressure here to the south from the Azores, stretching in through much of central southern parts of the continent, and low pressure up to the north of the jet stream here, running from Greenland through Iceland into Scandinavia. This is very typical of what you expect in November, very flat zonal westerly pattern. But as we go further out, we see that quite a big change develops as we go through to Monday the 19th. So over the weekend, next weekend, we start to see a trough setting up over Scandinavia, quite a deep trough of low pressure. The jet stream begins to start to dig down in towards France as well, and we start to build this ridge up in the Atlantic, stretching up towards Iceland. This is probably quite a weak ridge. This low pressure here stalling in the middle of the Atlantic may flatten this ridge of high pressure off, but nevertheless, this is just the first signs that the ECMWF is beginning to start hinting at change in the pattern for the final week of the month. Now we see the winds go around to the north here. As I said, this will probably be quite transient. You'll probably expect this low pressure in the Atlantic just flatten the trough off and bring the westerly winds back in from the Atlantic. But once this trough was to clear through, then you would probably find quite a building of high pressure developing in the Atlantic. Of course, if this trough didn't flatten the ridge off, then this ridge would build further in the Atlantic and perhaps form a bit of a blocking feature to the north and to the northwest of the country in association with this trough over Scandinavia. So this is just the first hints from the ECMWF model that things may be on the change for the final period of the month. Now, looking at the GFS, this is for again a week's time. Again, it's very flat here, flat jet stream coming out of Canada across the Atlantic into Britain and Europe, about as zonal as you can get, and that really remains the case as we go to 10 days out, Monday the 19th of November. There's no sign of that ridge developing in the Atlantic with the stalling trough. Instead, this has a very deep area of low pressure over Iceland forming, and a westerly wind blasting across the country, a strong wind, gale force wind, and we've still got the ridge here across much of the central southern parts of the continent. So perhaps the ECMWF is a bit progressive, really, in bringing about that to build a pressure in the Atlantic and stalling that low pressure in the mid-Atlantic. This is still very zonal sort of pattern, albeit somewhat cooler. But as we go beyond this, we do start to see changes taking place. We start to get a ridge building in the Atlantic. We're beginning to show signs of setting the trough up over Scandinavia and going further out. This is taking us to 348 hours away, so this is on a very, very long way out, Friday the 23rd of November. But this is what the 6 o'clock run of the GFS model is doing this morning. It's taking this deep area of low pressure in across the British Isles. I'm not sure about that, but it's building this ridge up in the Atlantic and sending it up towards Greenland, so that by the time we get through to the end of the run, which is Sunday the 25th of November, we've got a very decent blocking area of high pressure here in the Atlantic. A really cold northerly wind is starting to set in across Britain Britain as this area of low pressure moves eastwards. Now, I say I'm not sure about the area of low pressure, but it'll ever get as deep as that, but certainly the trend here with the GFS model is to build this ridge in the Atlantic, start to move it northwards. 3 out of 4 of yesterday's GFS operational runs were going for this sort of pattern, with high pressure building in the Atlantic around Greenland towards the final week or so of November. And again, it's still at it this morning with the 6 o'clock run. It's still doing this sort of pattern. So I think the GFS is definitely sniffing something out really for the final week of November. And the ECMWF is sort of getting there as well. It's probably a bit progressive, the ECMWF this morning, in starting to break the pattern, break the zonal pattern down and get it towards more of a block pattern. It's probably doing it a bit too quickly, but I think the ECMWF and the GFS models are both at the outer limits, both starting to sniff this pattern out, which is a major change towards the final week of November, with much colder weather starting to come down from the north as a ridge builds in the Atlantic and somewhere around Greenland. Now, we're going to have to keep an eye on this, obviously, over the next few days. I will be watching it closely. I'm sure you'll be hearing much more about this next week. Either the models will back away from this idea and the zonal train will continue through the rest of November, or they'll start to pick up with it and run more with it next week, and the detail then will probably start to firm up a little bit. But certainly for the next week or so anyway, it's staying very mild, or quite mild, and it's staying generally quite unsettled as well, quite zonal, particularly in the northwest. And come back tomorrow, because I'll be doing the weekend forecast tomorrow, so come back for that. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.